I have had a couple of people write me this past week asking me about Yellowstone not blowing or the West Coast tsunami not occurring on or before July 19th last year like I spoke. One of these people was asking in a sincere way and the other was asking in a scoffing way. I've spoken about this subject in several of these videos. However, since the question still keeps coming in, I decided to post a video on the subject that I can refer people to in order to save time. In this video, I will also discuss Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 22, the verse that my accusers love to sling at me. First off, Yahweh clearly started giving the continuance of his timeline 11 days prior to July 19th in the third tier of the sign of Jonah. And there is a reason why he led me to leave the videos that spoke about Yellowstone and such posted. He did so because how he has revealed his timeline is part of the witness that he has set me with. Included in his doing so is a witness against most of you, and today I will expand on this. This is about his word and what it testifies to and why he gave it to us. It is about hearkening to his word and to what it testifies to, and it is about doing so in order to have our hearts circumcised to become as he is. The witness that he has set me with testifies against man for their rebellion to his word. It is not about me. You can make it about me if you would like. You will soon find out how your choice to do so will work out for you. In lieu of the precise, systematic way that Yahweh has revealed his timeline ahead of the dates, Yellowstone and the other things that I have spoken have not been failed prophecy. The reality is, he has publicly revealed the continuances in his timelines ahead of July 19th and ahead of each date that he has given to date in these videos. If you cannot understand this, you are simply being obstinate against the truth. I spoke that some things would happen on or before July 19th based on that being the last date in his timeline that he had given at the time that I spoke it. But it is an irrefutable fact that he did give the continuances ahead of time. This is testified to in the videos that he led me to leave posted. If you would just consider why he might have withheld some information from me and how he systematically revealed it, then it would make sense to you. His timeline has unfolded in a brilliant way that has testified to his word. This is Yahweh's show and it is his word. If he had shown me everything up front, the testimony that he has sent me with would not have unfolded like it has. For instance, I would not have had the urgency to flee to Greece, and if this had not been, then his prophecies would not have unfolded according to his word like they have, like me coming from Greece and such. No different than Jonah or any other of the prophets, I am merely his servant, and his word has testified to everything that I have spoken, even his wrath not being in July 19th and November 9th and December 25th. If you watch the videos that he led me to speak about Elijah's small quiet voice prophecy and Yahweh not being in the wind and not being in the earthquake and not being in the fire, they explain this. The reality that has unfolded in the witness that he has sent me with is, if his word is your sole measuring rod and you do not rely on your own understanding, his word testifies to it all, even his wrath not being in July 19th. What has unfolded to date in the prophecy that he has sent me with is so incredible that it goes beyond words, and it is exciting. His word is alive. His timeline and the prophecies being fulfilled like they have has testified to his word in a remarkable way, and it continues to do so. And like I keep saying in these videos, my 3 years of walking naked are about up. If you used his word to measure even this 3-year period, you would see that even Elijah, my predecessor, who was also fled for 3 years before he came before the prophets of Baal with Yahweh's power backing him up. My accusers completely reject that which Yahweh's word testifies to, with the exception of your liking to quote Deuteronomy 18:22. I have mentioned that this verse is misunderstood and even mistranslated in other videos. For this reason, I will discuss this verse today. It says, that which a prophet speaks in Yahweh's name, if it is not his word, Literally, if the word does not exist, or it does not come, it is a word that Yahweh has not spoken, and the prophet has spoken it in arrogance, and you shall not sojourn, or you shall not dwell with him. It is a must to understand that Yahweh's word is recorded precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. His word says so. He says this in Isaiah chapter 28, verse 10, because precept upon precept, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, an insufficient amount here, and there a little, an insufficient amount there. Notice the double emphasis on precept upon precept and measuring line upon measuring line. And I will read on to show you that this is an end-time prophecy as well. His word has to testify to itself. Most of you refuse to accept this in your stubborn, stiff-necked, rebellious hearts. Plus, there is more to this, because he also said in Daniel 10:21 that at the time of the end he is going to send one man named Michael to tell you that which is recorded in his word. Precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, shows that this servant is going to bring forth that which was recorded in his word in a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little way. And he says that in these same verses that this servant is going to mock you like Elijah mocked those worshiping Baal. He says so in the very next verse, in verse 11. Because with mocking lips and with a different tongue or a different way of speaking, he will speak to this people. He sent me to you with fire coming out of my mouth, like his word said that he would send me to you. Yet he also sent me with the good news of that which you must do in order to find rest, in order to be delivered into his millennium and become the planting of the millennium. Verse 12, he will say, this is that which will give rest to the weary and give them comfort. And this is the place to escape the toil. Yet they will not hear. Yet you will not hearken. He says this over and over again through his prophets. But you do not care what his prophets, including the one who poured out his blood on your behalf, spoke. Instead, you listen to wolves in sheep's clothing who give you soft cushions to sit on. You truly have no fear, nor do you have a true desire to be found in our Creator's favor. If you did, you would hearken to his word. He goes on in verse 13, Yahweh's word exists to you, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, an insufficient amount here, and there a little, an insufficient amount there, in order that you could walk and stumble backwards and be broken and snared and taken captive. Maybe you think this is not fair. Yahweh is totally fair. He gave us his word, and he set forth the conditions required of us for him to write his word in our hearts. This is what the new covenant is. It is just that you refuse the conditions of his covenant. His son said in Matthew 11, moreover, from the days of John the Baptist, including now, the kingdom of heaven is seized, and the forceful or the determined lay hold of it, or the forceful or the determined lay seize to it. His kingdom has to be our hunger and our thirst. It has to be our passion. I spoke to a person yesterday who said that they are living his word. And then a little bit later in the conversation, this person said that they did not really even know what is recorded by the prophets. Surely you can see the hypocrisy in this. Strangely enough, this person could not. Just like most of you are so blind that you cannot see your own hypocrisy. When Yahweh puts the blinders on, one cannot even see that which is obvious. Back to Isaiah chapter 28, verse 14. Stand upright and hear Yahweh's word, you babblers that rule this people, which are Jerusalem. You have made a covenant with death, and you are in agreement with the grave, because you have made lies your refuge, and you have hidden under that which is false. You say, because the overflowing scourge will pass over, and it will not come upon us. You are about to find this out. You are going to find out that the overflowing scourge is not going to pass over you, and you are not going to be raptured away like so many of you think is going to happen. In calling me a false prophet, you are wise in your own understanding. Precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little. Yahweh's word says differently. Yahweh had already given Moses the definition of the false prophet, and he recorded the description earlier in the same book of Deuteronomy. He said in Deuteronomy chapter 13, because if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams rises up among you and they give you a sign or a wonder, even if that sign or wonder comes, but they spoke to you saying to walk following after and to serve another Elohim, which you have not known, in other words, to walk following after another image of him that is not testified to by his word. He goes on, verse 3, you shall not hearken to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dream. In other words, anyone who has sought to take you away from his true image and his path that is recorded in his word. We'll read that here in the subsequent verse, in verse 5. Because Yahweh Elohim tests you to know whether you will love him. In other words, love his true image with your entire heart and with your entire life or not. You shall walk following after Yahweh Elohim and fear him and keep his commandments with the statutes and judgments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and cleave unto him. In verse 5, he tells us again why they are false. Put to death that prophet or dreamer of dreams, because he or she spoke to cause you to rebel against Yahweh Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt and released you out of the house of bondage, because he or she has sought to draw you out from the pathway which Yahweh Elohim commanded us to walk on. Thus you shall burn evil away from your midst. Can any of my accusers who accuse me of doing so? You say that your proof that I am false is July 19th did not happen as I spoke? Precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, says that July 19th did happen. Do you know better than that which Yahweh's word has testified to? His wrath was not in it like I spoke that it would be, but the measuring line even testifies that this would be the case. Plus, like I said, he started giving the continuances ahead of time to keep the Yellowstone and the West Coast tsunami and the rest of his coming wrath very much alive. Was our Messiah a false prophet because he told the generation of that day that the men of Nineveh would rise up to judge them? No, he was given a prophecy. Yeshua was certainly different in several ways, including that he was given his Father's 7 spirits without measure, but my point is he spoke things that did not come to pass as he spoke them. And the reality of that doesn't mean they're not going to come to pass. They certainly are, just not at the time that he spoke them. And the reality of Yahweh's word is nearly all of the prophets, if not all of them, spoke things that did not come in their lifetime. Did they know this when they spoke what they spoke? And much of that which they spoke that did come to pass was incomplete, because some of their prophecy included a tier of that prophecy that was for the here and the now. Did this make them false? Like I asked, did they know this when they spoke it? Plus, what I have spoken exists in his word anyway. As far as the dates go, the different prophecies that he has fulfilled through me testify to these dates. I will give you another example of this that I have given in another video. Elijah, my predecessor, prophesied to Ahab that he would be killed for his role in what his wife Jezebel did in falsely accusing Naboth to get his vineyard. Ahab then humbled himself before Yahweh, and Yahweh told Elijah to tell Ahab that he would live, but that his sentence would be passed on to his son. But later Ahab rebelled against Yahweh's word again, and the sentence was heaped upon him anyway. The point that I'm making is, Yahweh knew all along that Ahab would repent, but then later rebel again. But did Yahweh tell this to Elijah? The answer is, not according to Yahweh's word. Was Jonah a false prophet when he told Nineveh that they were going to be overthrown in 40 days? Of course not. Did he know that Yahweh was going to spare them? No, he did not. He was even angry with Yahweh for not destroying them. Did Yahweh lie to Jonah in sending him to them? Of course not. He knew that they were going to repent in fear. But he did not tell this to Jonah. If he had, do you think that Jonah would have had the same passion that he had in warning them as to what was coming? Of course not. And the same is true in the witness that I have been sent with. In the same way, this is another similarity, or even another tier of sorts, to the sign of Jonah. But the difference is, you have not repented like Nineveh did. And the men of Nineveh will rise up to judge you, because a greater witness than that of Jonah is here. And there are lots of examples like this in the scriptures of things that not happening exactly like the prophets spoke that they would happen. So what about Deuteronomy 18:22? precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, shows that if this verse was actually recorded by Moses, it does not mean what most of you think that it means. You should ask yourselves the question, how did Israel of old justify their stoning and killing Yahweh's prophets, including his only begotten son, if they did not twist or add to Yahweh's word somewhere along the line in order to justify their doing so? For this reason, do you think that it is possible that they added or twisted Deuteronomy 18 to serve their stiff-necked rebellious hearts? If you do not think that this is possible, you are delusional. This is why his word must be examined precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little. I am not saying that this is what happened, but it is certainly a possibility. It is a provable fact that the scribes of the New Testament took liberties like this. And there's certainly differences in the documents from the Old Testament, whether you're talking about the Septuagint or the Masoretic texts or such. There's certainly differences, but anyhow, not the point. The entire event, back to how the scribes took liberties with the New Testament, the entire event of the woman who committed adultery that was brought before Yeshua in John chapter 8 was added approximately 1,000 years after his murder. This is an easily provable fact. But even if Deuteronomy 18 was not altered or added to, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, shows that it does not trump that which is recorded elsewhere in Yahweh's word. Plus, like I said, in lieu of the continuances that he has given in advance each time, the prophecy that he has sent me with has not failed anyway. If you want to get hung up on Yahweh's wrath not being in his timeline to date, with no regard to what his word says that proves that he has sent me to you, this is your choice to do so. His Ezekiel 24 sign is his promise that he has sent me. Plus his word gives much, much more proof than just the Ezekiel 24 sign. I keep saying in these videos that you have to call his word a lie in your hearts in order to not believe what his word says about him sending me to you. I keep saying this because it is true. If you want to call me false so that you can justify your rebellion to what Yahweh has revealed and restored through me, go right ahead and do so while you still are able to. Enjoy it while you can, because dying you will soon die. The good news for myself is, soon you're going to know that he has sent me to you. His word says so. Here's one of the places that his word says this that I read the other day. Isaiah 44. I am Yahweh that makes all things, that stretched forth the heavens, that hammered the earth in place, that breaks apart the signs of those who invent lies and makes diviners, or those who distribute the lies, to boast or to praise. And of course, he allows for this. He even raises them up, puts Satan here to accomplish this. He says that turns the wise men back and turns their knowledge into foolishness. I will confirm the word of my servant. And this is in verses where he's talking about his two witnesses. He is going to rise up or accomplish his word spoken through his servant's mouth. And I will make good. He will repay the counsel of his messengers that say to Judah, I will raise up the decayed places and build up the cities that you will dwell in Jerusalem. This day has been a long time in coming, but the time for it to be fulfilled is at hand. Thus saith Yahweh Elohim.